Hey guys, Coach here. Welcome to this week's episode. Hey, this is the week we open up the ground here at Brook and Pond. We are going to get some of this runoff water and other things under control. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Enjoy Coach sweating his butt off. Hey, remember a couple of the shorts in a short video that I did not too long ago? Layout and everything, preparation, really makes that work day, that day that you're on the clock with machinery and everything, that much simpler. So the day before, we had cut pipe to length, we had cleared the trench line area where it's going to be, put our clean gravel off to the side, and had basically everything ready to go of where the origin's going to be at the downspouts, obviously, and then termination points. In this particular one that goes across the driveway, it terminates out in the lawn area. So trenching day arrives the next day, and I will tell you this up front. This was not, I repeat, not a fun day for Maestro and I. It was not. This ground, once opened up, revealed its ugly side. And all parts of it were okay. This small walk-behind trencher was not the right piece of equipment for this yard. What we needed here was a small excavator with a 12-inch bucket or something even more brutal on the ground than that, because we found in some places that this worn out old POS of a trencher just could not get the job done to the standard that I've always been accustomed to. It did get into the ground, but the chain on this thing could not even open the ground up 4 inches wide. The teeth on it were very worn down, and despite what the customer service rep said at the tool rental place, he is horribly, horribly wrong. And they do open up to a 6-inch trench, because if you can't even open it up to a 4-inch trench, how in the heck are you going to get a 4-inch corrugated line down into that trench? So, trying to extrapolate a positive out of a negative, and there's going to be a few in this video, it opened up the ground and it got a good start to what we needed. There was parts of our yard here at Brook and Pond that it could not even penetrate into. And you'll see those either at the end of this video or the beginning of part 2, which I hope you come back and watch the completion of it. So we got the machine up there around 10:30, 11 o'clock, almost noon. And we spent the better part of 5 hours on the machine, trenching out, trying to color within the lines of where I had spray painted out the line, because that's where the direction of fall was best. In this particular case, going across the driveway off on the left-hand side, I know that I have a sewer line that goes out to the septic. You can see it in the lawn area. You can see the big vault lid there. And I did not know how deep they put stuff. Now up here in the extreme north, I figured 3 feet minimum. But I didn't know. I even opened up the septic and opened the vault to see if I could see the inlet, and I could not. So I got across that area as quickly as possible and then followed the fall down to the lawn. And for the most part, you can see it looks like, I know this is sped up to like 2x or 3x, but you can see the machine does get into the dirt. But it was really, really difficult, and I had to clear the trench by hand of some of the bigger kibbles and bits as we went along. It was challenging, to say the least. Not only that, but we were in the middle of a very unusual heat wave. Now, some of you are going to laugh at me when I say this, but a heat wave up here in northern Maine was 83 degrees. It is normally about 63 degrees. And it was very, very uncomfortable because the humidity and the humidex was upwards of 100%. Soaking, sopping wet by the end of our 5-hour routine. I was sweating in places I can't even talk about on this forum. So anyway, off to trench number 2. And this one was a lot shorter. It did have a very, very difficult time right about even with the boulder. There was a compacted clay rock situation there. I don't know if they Dynapacked this area around the foundation, but the trencher could not get through it, and I had to raise it up and go over it and start again. So why did I trench in a curved line? Because I was trying to follow the natural fall, the easiest fall, and not necessarily the shortest fall. I wanted to be able to assure myself and the drainage system that I'm investing in that it was going to work properly. You can see, again, the clean gravel is pulled away from the trench. If you just stuck it in there the way it was, then you'd just have a trench scar that you'd have to try to live with or get some more gravel and clean it up. In this case, when we got it backfilled and cleaned up, it looked about 90%. It wasn't 100%. It didn't look like I wasn't there, didn't do anything, but at least we were able to clean it up. So we are getting towards the middle part of the trenching afternoon, and things are going along relatively well. This was one of the easier, as soon as I got away from the house, this was one of the easier trenches. I know that this hillside that you're going to see me start to walk down to allow the trencher to trench, this was made of fill from the other side of the house. So it went a little quicker. This one here was the shortest one, but it was also one that gave me the willies, because as you see the trencher going backwards here down towards the pond, you can see the well cap coming into view there. And I know, based on inside and outside straight line shots, that the electrical, the 220 electrical, comes from the well up to the utility room in the house. And I had done a couple of pilot holes trying to find it. I dug down about 24 inches along the well casing, and I did not find anything. So I crossed myself and I said a little prayer and did what I had to do here. Again, gravel pulled away from the trench line. So when we backfill that thing, and we're going to backfill it from the end of the trench back towards the beginning of the trench, so you don't lose any of your material, you're not having to carry dirt a long distance. Just an easier way to go about it. Now we get into the hard part of the day. After we've done quite a bit already, we get into the back side of the house and the northeast corner of the property. And this is where things really started to become challenging in the respect of the soils, the rocky soils that were there. This is where I wish I had an excavator. I really did. This little walk behind was at its limits and probably a little bit beyond. And what you were going to see here in a few minutes, you were going to see kind of why this thing was at its limits. But we did what we could do with the equipment that we had, and I had to know, number one, where my limits were, where the machine's limits were, and the project timeline that I had in my head. This trencher right here is probably 2 inches down into the ground, and it's not going any deeper. This is going to require a total by hand with a little mini jackhammer job. Moving up to the back hillside, this is where a lot of the water tends to pool and gather during snowmelt and then heavy runoff. So this is the main line in the backyard that I'm doing right now. And this is not going as well as I would have liked. The little side trench that you see there in the foreground, that's coming off the last downspout near the bedroom. And we're getting into a part of the yard again where this thing is just bouncing. It's like, literally, it's like 7 seconds on Fu Manchu, like the song goes. And it is just beating the living heck out of me. That's why I tell you, there's a gym shape and then there's a landscape shape. And I'm not the man I was at 50 years old, now at 65. So this day did take its toll. But what got me through it is the experience and knowledge of knowing what I was up against and setting my mental state of, I got to get it done. I don't have any choice. One way or another, this thing is going to get done. It's probably going to get protracted out longer than I thought, but I'm still going to finish, and I'm not going to let it beat me. I'm just not going to let this job, this equipment, this rental company, or any other adverse element that comes into our project get to me. Boing, 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 bang, bang, bang. I also found out that there was a layer of foam insulation at the foundation line and then coming out away from the foundation, which is a building style up here that prevents any sort of frost intrusion up underneath the foundation of your house, causing heave and causing fracturing of your foundation. So I found that the hard way by nicking it a few times with the trencher. Then the highlight of the day. Here's the highlight of the day. Is 75%, probably 80% of the job is done. You know, you can see the finish line, but it's still on the horizon type of thing. And I lose the chain. The chain just falls off the bar. And I've had this happen on my equipment in the past when I've hit something really, really wrong. But this one here, this is because of a lack of maintenance on this. The roller, all the links in the chain are as dry can be. They have no grease in them. They have no lubrication whatsoever. And then to come to find out that the set adjustment screw and the spacer discs in here were broken and out. And I spent the next hour of my on-the-clock day trying to fix this thing. And I got it back on. Little bit of persuasion with a 5-pound sledge to set the bar correctly, but it's so rusted and it's so dried out, nothing slides anymore. So eventually what I had to do is I just sat down, I took a deep breath, and I said, this is not going to work any further today. I called the rental company and I told them what happened, and they basically said, you just do this like a chainsaw blade. No, that's only if everything was working correctly and it was just out of adjustment. This was broken. This was plain flat broken, and we took pictures of it. I lubed everything up as best as I possibly could, and I said, well, maybe I can get just a few more feet out of this, because I had so much slack in the chain line. I wasn't getting the cut I wanted any longer, and I knew it. I knew that was not gonna work too much more. So I kind of just threw my head around the fact that I was going to have to come back with the mini Bosch and just kind of chisel my way out. And you can see the other line coming up from the trailer there. That's how close I was to being finished. It was disappointing, and you can see all the slack that is in that chain line. That bar needs to slide up another 2 inches, and it was not going to move. And I'll tell you what, because we like to have this a family-friendly channel, we're only going to put in certain expletives here, because by this point, I am saturated, I am tired, I'm a little ticked off, and the company was of no use whatsoever to the customer, plain and simple. So we ended up just getting to right about that intersection that you see there, and I just kind of said, that's enough. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to break this thing, because then I'm going to be liable for it. So the next day, clean out day. You know, we've run back to the store. We've taken this thing back. To the company's credit, instead of a full day rental, they charged me for 4 hours instead, which was nice of them. I got to hand it to them. Most companies don't do that, but this guy did. So here's the manual part of a machinery It should have been solved by machinery. Instead, we're having to go back and widen this trench because that chain could not cut a 4-inch trench. So I got the mini Bosch out. I cleaned a little bit of the gravel and the dirt back, neatened it up a little bit, and then I widened it out. Again, this was one of those days where, oh my gosh, it was in the mid 80s with a high humidity. And kudos to all you folks down in the deep south and anywhere summer humidity creeps in. I was raised where there wasn't that much humidity. And I really don't function super well in it. I'll be honest with you. But in this case, Mini Bosch came to the rescue. And piece by inch by foot, we widened it out, cleaned it up, and got it ready for installation of the pipe itself. It was okay. You know, you had to come back and you had to hand trench it out and you had to hand clean it out. And by the way, even if you have a trencher that is wide enough and does the job, you're still going to have to get in. Even with a reamer bar, you're going to have to get in and clean the bottom of that trench, ridding yourself some rock, up and downs. Roller coaster trench bottoms do not flow very well, and the pipe will mold itself to those up and downs. So here is the end of the day, and it was the time when I just wanted to be done. And I found out that I was a little short on pipe, and thank God when I took the trencher back, I picked up a couple of couplings, and thank God I did. What a forecast of future events, because I was short on pipe. So I got the coupling together. Industry standard practices are a good exterior grade duct taping these two things together. If you just push them together, yes, they will stay together, but they're going to leak really bad at that point. So I've always used a good Gorilla tape, 3M tape, French drain guy, super sticky tape, whatever you want to find, and then cutting off the ends and getting ready for the Popup 90 there. The 90 has a drain hole in the bottom, and only the Popup is going to work when you have a tremendous amount of water coming down that. So putting this on and taping it up, if you have just a light shower type of thing and you have just enough water to kind of fill up the bottom of your corrugated, don't expect the water to come flowing up out of that emitter. Don't expect that. You have that drain hole that is going to constantly allow water, small amounts, to percolate underneath the pipe and down into the ground. And then during the larger rain events, that's when you're going to see it pop up and you're actually going to see water evacuate from that green pop-up lid there. It is not, it's really a misnomer, because you think like, well, a little bit of water in the pipe, but that's a 4-inch diameter pipe, and you're going to have a lot of water going down that pipe to fill it up and to actually have it come out. But it's away from your house, which is the whole point, and it is going to seep out and percolate into the yard safely, and you're not going to have flooding issues and problems at your foundation, which is the whole premise of doing this. So let's talk about backfill. You know, I did a couple of short videos, and one of them was about backfilling and how you want to start your backfill process at the end of your trench, working back to your downspout. The reason being is because that trencher pulls a tremendous amount of all the dirt in that trench backwards. So the beginning of the trench, if you look at it, when you do this, you won't see hardly any dirt at the downspout area or wherever you're starting it. You will not see it for about sometimes 3 to 5 feet away, depending on how deep you go and what kind of soils you have. You want to pull it sideways and towards the top of the trench where you started it. And you can still see right here in the foreground just a couple of kibbles and bits on that clean stack of gravel there. So the far side there, yep, it's got a little bit of soil mix in, but hey, you rake off your kibbles and bits of your rocks, you take it down to where it's clean, and then at the end, do a little bit of compaction, a little bit of stomping, and a little bit of water compaction goes a long ways into speeding up the process of settling here so you don't have a trench divot long term. In this particular case, Maestro was out there filming and helping, and she took up the hose and did a great job of soaking it down, and then I was able to walk back and forth across it and kind of, you know, pack it down enough to where when we do another load of gravel this fall, you're not even going to know that we were there, and it'll have a few months to settle out naturally. And boy, I'll tell you what, by the time we got to this point here, we were like, time to punch my card, because I'm done today. So even though I've done this for years and years, you know, it gets to be a very physical, taxing job. It really does. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And there's the proof of concept: filling it up, sticking a hose down in the downspout and letting it run, and with that much water, out it comes. So I know that my fall is good. I know that the emitter is working correctly. We decorated around it. Guys, stay tuned for part 2 coming up, and we'll finish this thing off, answer any sort of questions that might be out there. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, to your landscape success, check out the website, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.